We as humans have taste. We know quality when we see it. Whenever something is of high standards, we actually know what it is. And if you are going into an industry, you are going to do research, you're going to try as much as possible to expose yourself to what the standards in that industry are. So you are aware of what high quality and low quality is. And the problem is that whenever someone is starting out in an industry or starting to actually build a skill, they are always scared of creating something that is mediocre. They want to replicate creating something of high quality. And so they are always scared to dive deep and actually do as many reps as possible of that thing. So they always delay whenever they are trying to create something. They always delay, take their time. They always try as much as possible to be careful not to make mistakes. But the problem is that they are beginners and they are toddlers in that game. And the thing about toddlers, whenever they are starting out anything, whether it's talking, whether it's walking, whether it's even observation of their environment, it takes time. It is something that has to be learned. They have to crawl, they have to lean on walls, they need the help of an elderly person, they need constant correction. No one makes fun of a child for actually not having good articulation, for not pronouncing words the right way. Whenever they mention words in their little gaggle, people are always willing to correct them in a very positive manner. So it is important for anybody or any creative that is starting out, especially artists, speaking specifically to artists, to give themselves grace. And you give yourself grace while doing as many repetitions as possible whenever you are starting out in a skill. So for someone like me now, I struggle with being articulate and eloquent. So one of the solutions to do that is to talk as much as possible. So these videos serve as an opportunity for me to be able to articulate the things that I know about art to people so that they can be able to understand it. So I get better at articulation, I get better at speaking by actually doing a lot of videos of me speaking. And the more reps that I do, the better I get at communicating the ideas that I have in my head and transferring it over to somebody. So it's the same thing whenever you are starting something like art. You need to do as many reps as possible for you to get to a decent enough level where the standard is acceptable. The thing about this art thing, right, or any skill in general, is that the people that you are seeing at the top, they've done a lot of repetitions. They've done a lot of art, right? They've created a lot of art. And it so happens that because they've created a lot of art, they kind of know their deficiencies. They know the things that they are strong at. They know the things that they need to improve at. They know the things that they have potential for. So during the course of creating that many arts, they are able to create incredible arts. Some of the arts are actually going to be mediocre. Some of the arts are actually going to look awkward. There's going to be a lot of inconsistencies most of the time. But because of the amount of volume that they create, they are eventually going to get better. And a lot of the times, people end up seeing the highlights of an artist's work and not knowing that there is actually a foundation of a lot of bad arts that they've created that has given them the experience to be able to reach that level that they currently are. The difference between an artist that is actually starting out and an artist that is at the level where people consider them to be of the highest standard, where they create the works with the most quality, is that they didn't allow the ugly works that they created, the works that had the awkward anatomy and the weird looking composition, they didn't allow those works to stop them. They saw those works, they allowed themselves to fail, and then they went back in and continued. And 2,000 works later, 2,000 sketches later, 3,000 illustrations later, 500 portraits later, they are creating what people will refer to as a masterpiece. It's because they didn't stop. If you stop, you are never going to move past that point, right? You move past that point once you allow yourself to constantly challenge, once you give yourself the grace to constantly fail. Yes, you try, you fail, then you try again, and then you fail again, and then you push past it, because eventually you are training your brain, you are training your hands, you are training your eyes to actually get better at this thing, because it becomes easier. It's kind of like somebody that just has a twig of an arm and you are trying to gain muscle. You're not going to gain the amount of muscle that you want within a week. It's not something that is going to happen instantaneously. It's not something that's going to happen in your first gym workout session. It's something that takes time. It's something that once you do it over and over and over again, you're going to see that if 5 reps takes you a long time to do it, it takes you a lot of energy. You're going to see that once you do that 5 reps for 1 week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, your body is going to adapt to it. The muscles are going to develop, and 5 reps is going to be extremely easy for you to do. And before you know, you're challenging yourself to 10 reps, to 15 reps, to 20 reps, and so on and so forth. And that is how you actually build yourself. It's not something that happens in just one session. A lot of times, especially people that don't have experience with drawing all throughout their life, they are not like people that are not like me, for instance, that actually started drawing from a very young age. I believe I started drawing around the age of 6, that don't have a lot of experience with it. The reason why they find it extremely frustrating is because, and they feel like they are talentless, is because you don't have the same mileage than these other people have. You get to their level by actually developing experience, by creating experience. You don't have the experiences that they have. You see somebody who is 20 years but have experience of 15 years whilst drawing, and you see someone who is 20 years but just began 2 years ago, and you expect yourself to be on the same level as that artist that has been training and be working and be drawing for 15 years. That artist has stacks upon stacks upon stacks of artworks that they've done. A lot of them ugly, a lot of them horrendous, a lot of them cringe. They have all these experiences behind them. You can't just all of a sudden just leapfrog, from the experiences that they've had and just download them into your brain. You build them consistently by hard, gritty effort. A lot of us follow all these amazing artists. We follow them on Instagram, on TikTok, across various social media platforms, and we see one amazing artist that they have, they just drop on social media, and everybody's worshiping it. It's an amazing artwork, but a lot of the times people don't actually know that just that marvelous artwork that they are seeing it's not just one artwork. It's a combination of thousands of artworks that they've done. That artwork is basically the highlight of years upon years of doing mediocre artwork, of doing good, bad, awkward looking drawings that they've not really felt secure about to a lot of the times even display online. You see that a lot of beginners, they will know virtually all the artists that actually put tutorials online, but they do all the research. They've downloaded all the brush sets that these artists have. They have the tablets, the drawing tablets, they have sketchbooks, they have all the tools, they have the devices, but they've not been able to actually get into it and start drawing, right? They're always doing the preparation process. They always watching tutorials upon tutorials, but they are not actually getting into the drawing, and allowing themselves to fail multiple times, allowing themselves to do the bad, ugly looking art that they know that they are capable of doing, because they are not skilled enough. They are not willing to do that, so they just hold themselves back and start doing what I call the busy work, right? The work that has no risk, because they know that once they actually face the music, they are not going to actually be good. And people are scared of sucking. Nobody wants to actually do something that is terrible. But the problem is that is the necessary work that you need to actually get to the next stage, and then the next stage. The bad drawings, those awkward drawings that they are making, are actually doing what they are supposed to do. Those bad drawings are teaching you. Problem isn't necessarily making bad art. The problem is that you are looking at your art, and then you are looking at that artist you admire and expecting your work to look like that artist's work on your first try. That is not how things work. It's kind of like criticizing a child that is just coming to school. That analogy that I used before. A child that is just learning to read, that is just learning to write, a child that is just learning to speak on the first day of school. You don't do that. You give them grace. Single drawing that you're doing is going to reward you, whether the drawing is bad or good, or you're proud of it or you're not proud of it, because every repetition you're doing is creating experience. You are getting the full 4K display and full experience of what bad art looks like, so that you know what not to do. We look at guys like Kim Jong-gi or whatever top artist that they admire, that can draw from imagination and just draw in different angles with different perspective angles. They'll see them doing it effortlessly. But that skill, because it's a skill, that skill comes from years upon years upon years of experience, of observation, of bad drawings, of trying to draw from imagination, failing, trying it again, failing, and then trying it again. And eventually it has paid off. There is always a gap between your personal taste as a creative and your ability. When you're starting to develop a new skill or to work on a new skill, your taste isn't always up to your ability. Isn't always up to your taste. You are not able to create something that we consider, that people around the world consider of high quality or of even decent enough quality. But the solution isn't stopping at the third try. It isn't stopping at the fourth. It isn't stopping at the 10th. It's allowing yourself to keep going and allowing yourself to learn from your previous and past failures. This is usually one of the most difficult seasons of being an artist, right? Where you have to understand the construction, where you have to understand what a facial mask is and like the planes of the face, things like that. Understanding and doing exercises on construction, lining up different hands in different angles and using simple planes to actually break them down, and then replicating it and then drawing it over and over again. That is usually one of the hardest times. But the thing is that with each study that you do, you are actually getting better. You are gaining experience. You are building the muscle memory, so that whenever you are doing it from imagination or doing it from scratch or drawing it from your references, those planes, those ideas, those concepts, those techniques, those approaches are actually going to become second nature to you. With each drawing that you do, with each study that you do, you're getting closer and closer and closer to your taste, right? You're getting closer and closer to the stage where you actually admire the drawings that you make, because you are aware of the fact that the drawings you make are up to standard. They are of quality. That is why you shouldn't be trying to make works that, you shouldn't be approaching every drawing that you do as if it's something that is going to be placed in a museum, right? You should be looking at each work that you do like a scientist, right? Like you are someone in a lab, right? There's going to be a lot of experimentation. And the thing about experiments is that a lot of the time they fail, right? You're going to try something, it fails. You try something, it fails. What that means is that you are challenging yourself. When you are doing something that's comfortable, you are not going to, it's something that's easy for you. So, you're comfortable doing it. So you won't experience failure. You experience failure once you are challenging yourself, once you are giving yourself something that is of a higher level than your current skill level. So what you should be chasing is the next drawing, then the next drawing, then the next drawing, then the next drawing, especially if you are a beginner, someone that is starting out. Every great artist that you see reach the level that they currently are by doing one imperfect drawing after the other. Once they were done with that one, they then went to the other one and then looked for the next challenge. That is why I always advocate for quantity over quality, especially when you're starting out, right? Quality is not necessarily the opposite of quantity. You get to quality by doing a lot of quantity, because you are going to have experience. You are going to become knowledgeable of what it feels like to create something that is bad, what it feels like to create something that it's not of your taste. And then after multiple repetitions, you then get to quality. You are then able to actually you are then aware of what it takes to create quality, right? You are aware of the road, you are aware of the map, like what it takes to actually get to creating a work that is of quality. In conclusion, I just want you to allow yourself, whether it's any skill that you're learning, allow yourself to fail. Allow each drawing to teach you a lesson, right? I'm not just saying just draw mindlessly, even though if you do that for a very long period of time, you definitely learn. I'm saying with each tutorial that you watch, with each study that you're doing, allow yourself with each drawing that you're doing to learn something, and then take that to the next drawing, take that to the next drawing, and that's how you get exponential growth in regards to any skill that you're learning. That's just what I wanted to share today, and I'll see you next. I'll see you next time, guys.